Hello and welcome back to Garry's Garage. In this episode I'm going to get some plumbing done on my new pedal box. Those of you who were watching last time will have seen that I got this new Wilwood pedal box fitted. So the plan today is to strip out all the existing brake pipe work and the servos in the boot and redo all the pipework from scratch. So that means taking the interior out. So let's get started with that. Right, so here we have all of the hoses and the wiring loom going over here. And yeah, I want to try to tidy this up a bit and see if I can route these a bit nicer. This bottom corner down here was never brilliant with the side panel. And I'm going to have a lot fewer hoses need to go through to the back now, and yeah, see whether maybe we can find a better route for some of them. So just need to start stripping everything out, I guess. Right, probably a good idea to start at one end of the pipes, and most of them terminate here in the boot. So as I mentioned, for those of you who were watching last time, these three servos are going to be coming out. So we've got a brake and clutch feed coming from the old master cylinders up to these servos, and then the assisted extra pressured outlet going off to the four wheels. So single feed out, and then each of those is T'd, one to rear, one to front. So those are coming out. Down here is the charge cooler reservoir and pump, and that's what these 13mm or half-inch hoses are for that run through the car. And obviously there's the petrol tank, which has the feed and return, and there's also a vacuum hose that provides vacuum to these three servos. And obviously there's the battery cable that runs up to the front and then powers everything at the front of the car. So pretty much all of this is coming out, and what I'm actually going to do is move this petrol tank up to the space where the servos were, because as you can see there is basically no boot space in this car at the moment, and that's always been a bit of a pain. So with this tank tucked up close to the back of the back seat, That should give me a nice usable boot. Obviously not as big as the original car was, but a reasonable sized boot. And I can then figure out what I'm going to do with the battery and charge cooler stuff. But either way, it's moving, it's all going to come out. So let's start disconnecting everything at this end. That's a bit more like it. The Anglia always had a fairly decent boot, and I'm giving it a boot again. Okay, I don't have a petrol tank, so it might be a little difficult to drive, but you know, we can solve that problem. All we've got now is this jumble of wires and the charge cooler stuff to remove. So let's start by taking out the charge cooler stuff and draining that down. And then we can start to pull some of these back through the car. Okay, this water pump here is from a BMW X5, and it's a auxiliary water pump. It's actually made by a company called Pierberg, and it's a CWA 50 pump, so that's the smallest in the CWA range. They do I think a 50, a 100 and a 200 of varying sizes, and this is quite nice because it's controllable, speed controllable. So one of the inputs to it is a pulse width modulated, or PWM, signal, and I'm sending that from my Link ECU, and that means that when my inlet air temperature rises, I put more flow through the pump to push the fluid round quicker to try to cool it down quicker. So there's no point running the pump at full tilt all the time when I'm just cruising. I don't need that much cooling capacity. So yeah, quite a nice little pump. So I'll mop up this mess and put the lid on this tub, and we'll move on to the next bit. Okay, so that is the worst of it out, and that leaves me with much less going on through here. So we've still got a wiring loom, main battery power, fuel feed and return, a vacuum, and the 2 charge cooler. This one here is for the front passenger side brake, and this one here is the front driver's side brake. So these two are going to need to be shortened and teed off up there under the dash, so that's not a problem. They'll come out of the way in a minute. And then these are the 2 that go to the rear brakes. So again, they will be teed off around here, about where it was, tidied up, and one running through there. So fairly simple, other than there's also the line lock, which I had down here next to the handbrake. And what that does is that allows me to lock off the front wheels. So push down on the brake, lift the line lock, release the brake. That will hold the pressure onto the front brakes, but release it from the rear. And that's pretty good when doing things like drag racing, because I can spin up the rear wheels, get heat into the tyres, and I won't move forwards because I've got the brakes full on the front. So I definitely want to keep that. That's really cool for the drag racing that I do. So I need to plumb that back in as well. And I'll probably put that again in the same place where it was, down next to the handbrake. It's tucked out of the way, easily accessible. So let's tidy this up. Have a look at redoing this rear brakes, because these probably could be routed slightly nicer to miss the underneath of the seat. And yeah, get a line run for the rear brakes at least up towards the master cylinders, and then we can worry about the front and the line lock in a moment. Right, that's the basic route laid in for the front and rear brakes. So the front one will come along through the line lock and then back to the front where it will tee off, probably down just by the tunnel there. The rear will come straight from the master cylinder through. I'm going to go through that piece of box section and put the T-piece under the back seat. So that's looking pretty good. So next thing is to route the pipes sort of up the bulkhead there, the firewall, and then across over to the master cylinders on the pedals. That's the bulk of the brake pipe work done that I can do for the moment until I get some more fittings, which are on their way to me. Next thing that is needed is a brake switch and a clutch switch. So brake switch is for, well, brake lights for one, and secondly because I've got cruise control through the Link ECU. So I need the brake switch to know when I hit the brakes that the cruise control needs to disengage. I've also got a clutch switch, and that's used again for cruise control, disengagement, and also as a trigger input for things like launch control, so that I can put my foot on the clutch, foot on the accelerator, rev it up, bounce off a rev limiter, build up some boost, and then as I lift the clutch, the switch will reactivate, and that will then disengage the launch control. So we need to pull the pedal box out and figure out how we're going to mount two switches to it. I'm so pleased that that came out without having to remove the steering column. That is going to make life so much easier, getting this in and out while I mess around with it. Oh, really good. Right, so here's the pedal box out of the car again. And pedals go that way. So most of the time you have a electric switch, which is mounted up here somewhere, and when the pedal is at rest, the little plunger on the end of the switch is pushed in. Then when the pedal is pushed, this plunger comes out, and that makes the contact and sends the power through the switch. So that one and that one is what I was using on the old pedal box. But I do have another one which is identical to this. So in terms of making up brackets, it might be easier to use two of the same. So I'll just give them both a quick check with a multimeter to make sure that they're both working okay. And then we need to look at making some brackets to affix it to this. And after that, I've now got my two basic brackets which are going to be bolted onto here. So I'm going to need to drill out and tap a small hole in there, and that will give me something to put a small little bolt into. And I'm going to just tack these up together with the welder, and that should get them nice and stiff and at just the right angle. So let's do that now. So I've put this pedal box back in, and yeah, it's all looking pretty good. I'm really happy with how that has come together, along with the brake switches and clutch switch, and how I've made a start on the brake pipes. So I've ordered some bits, and I've got some connectors for fuel and clutch pipe on their way to me. So that's about all I can do in this session. So thanks for watching, and join me next time on Garry's Garage, when we'll continue getting this lot plumbed up and hopefully get some working brakes and clutch. Thanks for watching. Bye.